Larry, you wrote an article for the BBC website looking at your own experiences of living in the United States. Tell us about what you wrote.
So this is something that every person of color in the United States, but especially for me as a Black man living in America, it's something that happens. It might not be overt racism, but there is a lot of microaggressions. So in this one instance, my first week living in New York City, I was invited to a friend's house for dinner at a penthouse in the very wealthy Upper West Side. And when I came in and I was carrying something for dessert because you don't want to show up empty-handed, and the doorman assumed I was a delivery guy and sent me through to the back of the building, through the trash area, and in to use a service elevator. And I didn't realize what had happened until my friend opened the door and apologized, saying, "Listen, I'm so sorry, but my racist doorman thought you were a delivery person and therefore sent you to the back." But this is nothing compared to the scale of what happens in the United States and why we see so many people on the streets, which is they feel is a system that is through and through racist and discriminates on people of color, but specifically on African Americans.
I know you've spoken to a lot of people in your time in America as a journalist. When you speak to African American people and also to African migrants or people who work in the United States, where do they feel safe?
That is hard to tell. A lot of them feel they're constantly navigating white spaces. They're having to navigate these areas that were not designed to protect them. They're having to negotiate for their humanity with a government, with a society that privileges and favors whiteness more than any other color. And whether it's in job applications, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in how many people are stopped by police, in how law enforcement is applied, in the number of people who are in jails, for instance, all of these instances, there's a lot of data to support that more people of color, more African Americans, more Black people are in jail than any other ethnic group in the United States. And that is why, for many people, they feel this moment helps highlight some of those issues and why they feel so passionate to go out on the streets.
You've worked in the UK, you've worked in South Africa, you now work in the United States. Are there any comparisons to draw between situations you've seen in different countries?
That's a brilliant question because South Africa has a complicated racial history. The United Kingdom has its own racial hierarchies, but I don't think the level of attention that any of those issues gets is comparable to here in the United States. I know there are many of my friends of color in the UK, many of my friends who are Black, who don't feel that the society that privileges their experience or is stacked in their favor. But they don't get as much attention, and they've been talking about these issues. You saw the number of people who came out to protest in London and in other places in Europe because this is a real issue there as well. But because, and I think the actor Will Smith has said it best here in the United States, he doesn't think that racism has increased. It's just getting filmed a lot more, and these cases are getting amplified by social media, and people are rising to that occasion. For instance, today would have been Breonna Taylor's 27th birthday. She was at home when policemen bust into her house and shot her dead. They were in the wrong house, and to date, they have not been arrested. So these are some of the issues why people feel so strongly about this subject.
Larry Madowo, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.